Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Still here in Prairie View. Survived the rain, as some people said on the social media platform. Jackson State alum, I would say all except for our co-host, because he's right about it. He might get in trouble because I pulled him out and say that he don't do all that fussing. But for all the rest of, they say they was crying with the loss and why we got the rain all the way over here in Texas. And I guess that includes the North Carolina Citrus fans that were crying all the way from North Carolina. We also have those Benedict fans crying as well in terms of South Carolina. What they call it, upset weekend, upset Saturday, it seems like. So this is episode 731. Welcome to episode 731 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast. The show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from the NEIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Cavil, along with my co-hosts, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and A.D. Drew. The professors are in the building. We're filming from our home studios, or as I said, the tailgate space, mid-city as they call it down here in Prairie View, which we've been here since day one, before there was a thing such as RV. I drove one up. Mike made sure that I had the money to do it, as he was still taking care of me at the time. So I appreciate it. We're filming from our home studios in Signal Live, Caseway 430 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper, in a beautiful home at Texas Southern University. With that being said, let's bring everybody on board so they can see what's going on. I think they're crying over there in Southern too. I think they're the main problem. You know, we got the storm with the man here. Southern, there's something wrong with them. Life ain't right if they can't be crying about something. They send folks home, send them packing. They all over the ledge. Folks more coming to the ledge. They lost to Jackson State. They lost to FAMU. They got all four coming up. Oh, boy. They lost to folks that they don't even claim as rivalries. They get so bad they send the coach packing. They lost to Prairie View. Still got Texas Southern coming. It might not get much better, but they got to find a way to get the pound up first. With that being said, Charles, how you doing today?
Doc, I made it in. It's roughly about I guess an hour and 13 minutes from Prairie View to my house. And you mentioned showers. I was showered with raw emotion.
You gonna say 30 seconds?
I was showered with raw emotion for all hour and 13 minutes of that drive back home from Prairie View last night. So, I'm here. I got my throat right, and I'm front and center. So we got to talk about it. We got to talk about upset Saturday.
I would say a great call on the SWAC TV.
Thank you.
In terms of broadcast, I know it was shortened. Thought it was the right call. We'll get into that a little bit as well. Let me go to you, Mike. What's your thoughts?
Man, upset Saturday. Man, you can't coin it any different. I mean, whether you go to the MEAC, whether you go to the SWAC, whether you go to the Division II, I upset Saturday, quote unquote. And as you can see, the tailgaters behind me are still out there. And you can call it upset Saturday because you can tell from my voice, it's upset too. So,
Mike, we only gonna pull on you when we need you. We know you.
Thank you. Please
work through it right now. AD Drew, it's appropriate that you have your MEAC SWAC Celebration Bowl, Cricket Celebration Bowl shirt on because yesterday the front players may have a little more work to do. So I know it's a lot of fun in Atlanta eventually where somebody's going to pick their ticket there, punch their ticket as they like to say in different places, but maybe a little different at this point. And then, if that wasn't good enough, where you butter your bread, upset there too.
Mm.
I don't know if I would call that an up.
At least from the rankings, it was 1 versus 2. Benedict came in there. Everybody said Benedict was number 1. Now, I agree with you. Most folks said if quarterback was healthy to play for the Rams, that's who they would pick. Even Brian, when his Las Vegas odds, talk about Las Vegas odds. What was the odds for Graham to get it done? Different discussion. We'll get back to it. AD Drew, what is your wild thing that happened this Saturday?
I don't know if I would call a couple of these games upsets. I would say more surprising, especially with the score of a couple of these games. You know, the Benedict Albany State score, the fact Albany State won, no, did not surprise me. The score of the game and how they won, yes, it did surprise me. You know, Grambling, unfortunately, has Jackson State's number, at least for the last 2 years. Whatever you said, Delaware State beating Central, maybe an upset, but given what Delaware State has done this year, I'm not so sure that I would really classify that as an upset. It's kind of hard to say upset.
What?
Let me finish.
Remember the start of the season. Nobody picked Delaware State to do anything.
At the start of the season, yes. But when you have 2 top 10, 2 top 7 teams going against each other, it's kind of hard to say it's an upset. To me, an upset occurs when it's somebody who's outside the conversation, outside of the ranking. On that day, makes
AD, what you drinking? I want some.
Like, here we go.
Charles is so shocked
last year.
Can't even
get this in,
facial expression says it all.
Last year,
I'm gonna get you, AD.
Was an upset.
AD, I'm gonna get you off the list. I'm gonna make this simple. Charles, say your comment. Mike has already told him. What, Charles? What you got to say?
We used to talk about Delaware State in terms of Valley. So I mean, that tells you about the job that they've done this season.
Exactly.
That is an upset for them to go to North Carolina Central and get the win there. That's a complete upset.
Yeah, I would say this too. We're gonna simplify this. We do a ranking here, mid-major, major. I know everybody else might do their stuff. You got strength schedule. When we on this show, we're gonna follow Dr. Cavil's ranking. So when the lowest seeded team defeats the
highest seeded team,
by basic definition, AD Drew, that's called an upset. Now you may say I picked it. You may say I thought it was gonna be closer than that, or this doesn't surprise me. But based on inside the HBCU Sports Lab, sports connotation, lower seed beat higher seed is called an upset. Now, with that being said, it's time for me to give out cigars to those teams that did, quote unquote, the upset that AD Drew was still trying to figure out the new math. With that being said, we had, quote unquote, upset with Grambling defeating Jackson. So to the Tigers, here's your cigar. 26-24, a field goal. Let's say prayers for T-Set. We were hearing that as he was on the field that he had movement. His mom was there. Both teams appropriately prayed and tried to get back into action. I really love what Jackson State players did. They saw something immediately. They called before even Grambling folks started recognizing. A medic came out there extremely quickly. She instantly called more folks out there and checked on them. So the appropriate measures as best you could do was really good in terms of what that looked like. So I did want to make sure I acknowledge all those involved and continue well wishes. And congratulations to the kicker in terms of nailing it. He showed his excitement appropriately of getting a big win, what we call an upset on this show when the number 1 ranked team goes down the team that was outside the poll, essentially number 10. That's an upset. Then we also have, obviously on the other side, Delaware State taking down our number 2 team, North Carolina Central, in terms of that. Now that was the top 7. You had 7 versus 2. Fascinating to open things up. And Delaware State 35-26 after being down 10-7, rolled off several points and kind of pulled away. Central closed it up to try to make a win out of it. Congratulations to Howard in overtime, 33-27. South Carolina State has woken up off the mat after that was close for a little while, 51-20 in terms of shout-outs and goes to the Bulldogs over there getting it done. Shout out to North Carolina A&T defeating Campbell, getting their second Coastal Athletic Association, formerly known as the Colonial. And then you have Alabama State. Surprising some folks, that was 49-3 or 6 at halftime. They ended up winning 56-13. Not that they won, but they way to won. Shout out to the Hornets Mac City Classic, taking home the trophy. Rivalry game. So shout out to those fans. FAMU will not get off the neck of Southern as they go down there feeling better about themselves to guard to the Rattler. They make things maybe interesting at the end of the show. We'll get to that matchup, 43-35. Wildcats are finally here in the SWAC and ready to play some football. They defeat Pine Bluff 31-14. Shout out and cigars to Wildcat. And the Braves said not so fast. I know y'all in love with the Delta Devils, but they got a little more work to do. The Devil does not have his gun as they fall to the Braves 32-10. Prairie View does what they need to do in the shortened version, rained out, lightning-induced game where they win 38-0. But it sets up, and we'll see after the rankings what it sets up in the third segment in terms of next week because Alabama State comes to Prairie View. We know that at least it's a top 7, but with the upsets, we'll see and what you all think in terms of what took place. So I want to give that. I wouldn't call it upset, but Tennessee State, after a big win, fall 17-16, could not sneak out a win. So I want to give them a little love just because of Brandon King, as we like to rub it in. Anything else you want to say, CIAA? The winners did what they do, but it does set up for a nice matchup this weekend. Fayetteville State, Johnson C. Smith, and Virginia Union all win solidly. So Magic is in the air. So cigars for those trying to set themselves up in the CIAA. I'm excited, as you can see, because football is in the house. Let me give you all a final statement in terms of what's on your mind this first weekend. Next segment, we'll come back, do on the ledge, see if more people will move. Some people had a chance to record, get off the ledge, or we'll talk about them being big stickers. But before we do all that, any last statement?
You tip your hat to Grambling. And like I've said on this show quite often, Jackson State fan base, they can go hard at a lot of fan bases, but that is that one team and one fan base they can't go at. Grambling, once again, they get the win over Jackson State. And, I've told you this, Doc, I think for a generation of Jackson State fans, their first go-to is what does Grambling look like? There's another generation, of course, Southern is more of a rival, but for a generation prior to me, their first question to me always is what does Grambling look like? Because Grambling has had so much success against Jackson State. So you tip your hats to them. That was a hell of a win. They were a tremendous underdog going into that game. And now we have to kind of take a look and see what does this Jackson State team look like as far as we know without the services of Jacoby and Morgan. How will the rest of the road look like?
Prayers on Morgan that his injuries are not as challenging as they caused him in that game having to sit out. It's a great point. I also want to acknowledge you in terms of getting me a different framework of how to look at matchups. So it's always good to talk with people that have embedded history of an institution. And you said this long ago and remind me every something about there's certain teams at certain periods of time, which I shared with you with Southern, for example, Texas Southern. Fascinating how that looks up. So it's always good to get that perspective. It various generations. Let me go to you, AD Drew. Last thing on your mind?
Three quick takes. Number one, shout out to Grambling and Jackson State. 29,655 was the attendance in Las Vegas. So first of all, I want to give the fans who traveled there, because I doubt that there are very few fans in Vegas.
Oh, go ahead, Aiden.
Yeah, I was gonna say I doubt there are actually very few fans who actually live in Vegas of these two teams. So most of those people had to travel into that particular game. So definitely want to give a shout out to those fans. Number two, for the first time since the expansion era, we will not have an undefeated SWAC East champion.
Yep.
Another good
which sets up an all-important matchup next week. And I know we'll get into it at the close of the show. But next week, Prairie View, Alabama State could determine whether the championship game will be played on the east side or the west side as the host.
Yeah.
Good call. Another good one. Excellent. 3 great points. Mike, let me let you close it out on yours. Last final thought on this segment.
Yeah, I'm sitting here in the RV trailer next to Raymond Holland, my RV buddy, and he's pulled up a tweet, and it's a picture of Charles Bishop on the ledge.
So whatever.
That's cold. That's cold. Hey, that's your boy. That's Big Brother doing
I know, right?
Anyway, you guys left no meat on the bones. Congratulations, Grambling. I'm Grambling. Congratulations to the attendance. But I like to recognize Delaware State. If you'd have gone into this game telling me that they were going to hold North Carolina Central to less than 25% conversion and dominate them for most, and the way that they won that game, I would have said, no, I'll take the Vegas on that. So congratulations to Delaware State. We said, are they drinking the Kool-Aid? Is this real? But in addition to congratulations, Grambling, you got to extend your hats out to Delaware State.
We got to be careful when we say Vegas and betting on here, Mike. You know, we don't need any NBA scandals on our show.
Right. Right. Great call by everybody in the first segment. Let's take a first break, come back on the other side. Time to look at the top 7 scores and see what they did. We heard a lot about it, but we'll point it out in terms of actual scores, in terms of specifically the top 7. We'll also visit Charles's ledge. We'll take AD in terms of the Big Ben Awards and see what they look like in the next segment. With that, we'll be right back after this first break.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. Whether you're a student or a lifelong supporter, our gear lets you wear your HBCU story with confidence and style. Because when you wear HBCU image, you're not just wearing clothes. You're wearing culture. You're wearing pride. You're wearing purpose. HBCU.
College football fans, the Cricket Celebration Bowl is celebrating 10 years of crowning an HBCU national champion. A champion will rise at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on December 13th as the MEAC and SWAC champions clash in Atlanta. Join us for championship football, interactive fan experiences, and iconic marching bands. It's an HBCU family reunion that you don't want to miss. See who will be crowned the next HBCU national champion. For event and ticket information, visit thecelebrationbowl.com.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Hey Charles, Big Mike is forcing you with that orange juice. For the break.
Hey, I could use that. I got
him on camera.
Hey, I want to send this to him. So.
Say, little orange juice to help do you right. I say, thank you.
Oh, I can use it.
Exactly. I hear you. So let's pull up the top 7. And we'll intro with the Big Ben. Give you an update in terms of, for those, pretty much all our watchers know now. So let's kind of scan through that. We'll look at the Big Ben helmet stickers in this segment. The Big Ben Award is given after the football season. An honoree must also exhibit the enduring characteristics that define Big Ben. Cavil, senior, determination, diligence, integrity, performance, familial, teamwork, fraternal, and community engagement. Ben was an HBC All-American, playing for Wiley College in the mid-20s. That first decade of the SWAC, won the national championship. So it's presented by THG Agency. In this segment, you can actually give the helmet sticker to whoever you want. For the actual awards, they have to be connected with the state of Texas, meaning they played high school football in the state of Texas and went to an HBCU. Or if they're from outside of the state of Texas, but they go to an HBCU in the state of Texas, they are eligible to be a winner of this award. So we'll do that. Now it's time, as we continue to move forward, to look at top 7s. Let's go ahead and do the top 7 for last week, just to remind everybody what went played. So you can go to the next slide there, AD, in terms of the top 7, give it to everybody. As we're looking at that one right there. Last week, we told you that at number 7, Delaware State Hornets were there. At number 6, Texas Southern Tigers. At number 5, South Carolina State Bulldogs. At number 4, Prairie View A&M Panthers. At number 3, Alabama State Hornets. At number 2, North Carolina Central Eagles. We told you about the upset. At number 1, Jackson State Tigers. We told you about the upset. Drew may see it differently, but for the inside this lab, we're going to call it a upset. So let's go to the next slide. When we look at those scores in terms of week 8, let's go to our first one, which was a matchup that featured number 10. I'll say that again, number 10 Grambling State Tigers, who now improved to 5-3, 2-2. They defeated the number 1 ranked Jackson State Tigers 5-2, 3-1. So you see how that flows and why some people may call this an upset, because the lowest seeded team, highest seeded team, in fact, they defeated them 26-24 on the field goal. So just something to consider. Let's go to the next matchup, which is number 2 team that played against number 17. As we see, number 17 is at the top of the bar. They have a lower ranking than the other team. They improved 5-3, 1-0. And they defeat the number 2 team that is now dropping to 5-3 and 0-1. And the score was 35 for the lower seeded team at the time, that's Delaware State, than the higher seeded team at the time, North Carolina Central Eagles, 35-26. So that's why on this show, we call that an upset. Just making sure that everybody's clear. As the dean of HBCU sports and a resident professor, when you see folks that may be looking at things differently, one of your responsibilities is to teach. So this is a teaching segment. Let's go to the next one, if you would. As my grandmother would say, I'm going to learn you something. In this case, you had a top 10, right, at number 3, Alabama State, as we was going to as they defeat a lower seeded team, Alabama A&M, 56-13. So we wouldn't call this an upset as A&M falls 4-4-1-3. In fact, because of the score 56-13, we probably could call this a beatdown. But with that said, I'll let y'all decide. Next matchup, number 4.
Mm-hmm.
This one is just okay. We don't even need to discuss this one.
Number
we don't
4
need to
here.
talk about it. We don't need to talk about
Prairie
it.
A&M over Lincoln of California, and we're still trying to figure out how they went. There were rumors that they bust in, which scared everybody. They were going to get off, but we learned that they actually flew in, or if they did bust in, they flew back, and they had to catch a flight. So the Lightning, they shortened the game, moved halftime to after the game in terms of the bands. They did well, but they won 38-0. People reflection, Valley put up 49, Auburn put up 42. But halftime at the Valley game, it was 14. Alcorn did better than that, 21. So when this was called in the second quarter, it was 24-0 to give you some perspective. They actually took the break, they came back, and it was 12 minutes in the second quarter. They washed that out, went to 8-minute quarters, and straighted with the third quarter and the fourth quarter. So it was significantly shortened. Not to say much about that, but just wanted to get your perspective. For those that didn't really get the details, I wanted to clear that up. But this is just a shutout is what we call that. I know we use that as baseball term, and sometimes we cross sport vernacular when we're doing that. So more lessons to be learned. Going to the next matchup, which is number 5. 5 played an unranked team in terms of what we have, which is number 5, which is South Carolina State, that improved to 5-3, 1-0. They defeat Norfolk State, that is struggling this season, 1-7 in their first conference matchup. They go down 51-20. Again, this is a game that some people would call a bludgeoning, a beatdown, right? With that being said, let's move on to the next matchup, which would have been number 6. They had an open date, Texas Southern 4-3, 3-1. Giving us all our matchups because number 7 was Delaware State, which we talked about, which, again, we're saying is an upset. Now that we've done our discourse and lecture for this segment, in terms of my perspective, I'm going to give it to you all to provide your discourse and what you want to teach in regards to. Give me some thoughts on the top 7. I think you did that, so you can skip through that if you like, and just go to your Big Ben Sticker Award. Who were the superlative players that were outlining some of these matchups? Or, again, it's your world, so you can go off the board and give a superlative to somebody who was not necessarily in the top 7 matchup. Starting with you, Mike, what direction you want to go?
First, I'm reading directly from AI, not an authoritative source. In a football, an upset refers to a situation where a lower ranked or underdog team defeats a higher ranked or favored team. This unexpected outcome often occurs in tournaments or where there's championship implications. Upsets can be significant, optimum word, significant in terms of the outcome of a championship and the overall narrative of a sport. That is the AI definition of an upset.
Professor Washington is going to learn you something today, too.
So I love you. The other point is that we all have the opportunity to give some input on SWAC TV. And your colleague, Brian, said, I'm going to be looking at Prairie View sideways if they don't score 50 points. You remember that? So when I watched A&Z Strike Zone, I don't want to hear Brian talking about they didn't score 50 points. We had a shortened clock, weather. I don't want to hear anything about we didn't score 50 points because we basically played them in 3 quarters. 38 points, 3 quarters. All right? Point number 2. Point number 3, Big Ben. Y'all, I know there's rules to it, but the quarterback, I know there's rules, but Cade Bennett, quarterback for Delaware State, I've seen him from the beginning, played well. He did a pseudo Andrew Body performance, 300 yards total offense. So that's who my sticker goes to.
Great job, Mike. And as I said, this segment, we open it up for you to go off because we want to make sure that you're able to acknowledge all superlative players. So I appreciate that. It makes sense. I also like the lesson in terms you learned today. Good job on your lesson in terms of taking it to the professors, taking folks to school, even if it's AI. And you made sure that people notice where you got the information so they can determine how they want to deal with it. Good job, Mike. Charles, Bishop, I'll come to you. Where do you want to go with your lesson of the day?
Well, I can make it real easy and definitely say that the Cameron Peters for Prairie View, ho-hum day, 11 of 18, 200 some odd yards, a couple of touchdowns for Prairie View. That makes it easy enough. Quincy Ivory had another sack for Jackson State yesterday, 5 tackle performance, had another tackle for a loss for Jackson State. So those are my superlatives yesterday, but I got to give superlative to Gramblin's field goal kicker. And I'm trying to pull his name up right now. If somebody can help me out with that real quick. But anytime you kick a game winner, I got to give you a helmet sticker for that. You take I go back to the 4th and 9 play that kind of helped them get into field goal position, where the young man, Darrensburg, ran for the first down that kept that drive going. This was after the stoppage of play after Xavier Tset was injured. But to continue to keep that drive going, superlatives go to the Grambling offense with regards to that, to get in field goal position and then to knock the game winner home. So those definitely would be my helmet stickers. Give me that name.
Josh McCormick.
Josh McCormick, exactly. Thank you.
44-yard field goal with 21 seconds left. And Grambling stuns a ranked Jackson State. And when they say ranked, our number 1 ranking, as well as the FCS top 25 ranking in that matchup when they say ranked. Just again, as we are doing a little bit of teaching today. AD Drew, what direction do you want to go with your lesson?
I want to give a definition from the book of AD.
The book of AD.
And it says perception is reality. Whatever I perceive as an upset is my reality. I do not perceive some of those games as upset. So, according to AD, some of those games, although they were in your definition upset, are not in the AD's book an upset. Anyway, getting back to...
I'm glad to see that you are a writer, AD. Good job.
Getting back to my helmet stickers, I always like to say mine for the Division II players because although we focus primarily on Division I, my bread is buttered at the Division II level. And there are a couple of worthy candidates. Delvin Durham, another 300-yard plus day passing ball for Johnson Smith. Curtis Allen almost ran for 2 bills again, ran for 198 for Virginia Union. But I have to actually give my helmet sticker to Isaiah Knowles. Anytime you knock off number 1, you're the quarterback of the team that knocks off number 1. 3 touchdowns, did throw for
on the road at that.
Yeah, and after coming back with that type of performance, after having sat for 3 weeks, definitely deserve my helmet sticker.
Oh, excellent helmet sticker, and I'm glad you gave love to the mid-major. I believe that was certainly adequate. So those things I said at the beginning of those things, while you need to learn something, you redeem yourself, AD, really well. And we'll close out this segment. Before we do this, though, there is Charles's ledge. Charles, since it's your ledge, we're going to start out with you to see who's on the ledge. Or do some people even get off the ledge for at least a minute?
Oh, absolutely. I think Florida A&M is no longer on the ledge. I think they were hate watching yesterday, so they are over there doing that. So I know a lot of Florida A&M fans are pretty happy about the results from yesterday. But based on number one and number two team losing, and it's sort of shattering the whole foundation of your expectations of being in Atlanta, even your travel itinerary. That has been shattered a bit. The landscape has changed. So yeah, absolutely. North Carolina Central and Jackson State, I think they're both fan bases are absolutely on the ledge. So like I told you, I had an hour and 13-minute drive from Prairie View to Jackson. I think I heard all that raw emotion from Jackson State fans. Like, okay, what does this mean? Does it mean does it mean we're not going to Atlanta? Hey, first and foremost,
you still control your own destiny.
You still control. I had to explain. You still control your own destiny. Now, where the SWAC championship takes place, that could be up in jeopardy, but you still control your own destiny. But the foundation has changed, especially, like I said, as of today, not knowing the health of Jacoby Morgan going forward. That is one of the things that you kind of paying attention to with regards to Jackson State going forward. And it's like I told everybody last night, if you trust TC Taylor and you saw how they bounced back last season after they lost to Grambling, and they got things together, they battened down the hatches, tightened up the ship. And if you trust that process, you understand that coaching staff is probably in the lab right now making whatever necessary adjustments. So we'll see going forward with regards to Jackson State as to whether you change your travel plans or not. So
great take there, Charles. And I can tell your full professorship is coming to play the way that you were lecturing and teaching there. Go ahead, Mike.
Charles, that was a beautiful soliloquy. I'm sure if you explained that to every single Jackson State fan, they probably would have looked at you and said, okay, so I still need to change my plan.
You absolutely know that happened. That was like, yeah, but you say all that, what do you mean? What do you mean?
What do you mean?
Relax.
Mike, since you jumped up there, go ahead. Who's on the ledge for you?
For me, is that school in Baton Rouge. That school in Baton Rouge. If they weren't on the ledge, they in the deep end, and they doing swan dive. they are just backstroking. What's gonna happen? And it's more like not about the season, but what's gonna happen now. So to me, if there's anybody, it's that one school. You could make an argument for Jackson State. I don't think they're on the ledge. They may be floundering with it. I don't know. The other thing is, if there's any other school, North Carolina Central, that's another school where the fans were making.
Josh Simpson.
Yes, Josh, where you at? What the fans talking about? They were making some plans, and all of a sudden, this victory from a number 17 that was not picked to even be in the top 7 at the beginning of this year comes in, goes to North Carolina, pull that upset. I know there's some fans. Josh is more of an expert.
Did you say upset?
Yes, I did say upset. I believe I did say with a capital U, not the Miami U, but a capital U. Yes, that fan base. Yes, absolutely. I think they are fluttering on that walking plane into the deep end. I'm telling you, that's how they think. So, Josh, where you at?
Especially the uniqueness of the MEAC, they certainly need help now. For the season, unlike Jackson State, they don't control their own destination now. They're going to need some help. AD Drew, go ahead. Where are you in terms of your ledge?
Actually, I don't think anybody is on the ledge today. I think a couple of people have actually stepped back closer to the base versus taking another step further on the ledge. Because everybody happened to take care of business this weekend. We had set like a artificial number of 1.5 in-season coaching changes this year. Do we have that other 0.5 coming? Or do we move the bar and say there may be a couple more? Right now, nothing's happening this weekend Nobody is supposed to, everybody's happy. Even Alcorn got a win, they're happy. Valley is showing patience. They know they've got a first-year coach. The only person who may take one step closer to the ledge, possibly, and I'll say that with a very small P, Mike, not capital P, maybe Morgan State, because they are slowly regressing there, considering where Coach Wilson came in at and what the expectations have been, and considering how long he's been at Morgan State. That may be the only person who may be taking another step, but they're definitely not at the edge of the ledge as of yet, everybody.
And I want contextually folks to think about this. When we talk about that, we're really, for the most part, talking about fan bases. So you're absolutely right. When we look at it, we would say, hey, they played in tremendously close games, so they're right there. Certainly a disappointment. But yeah, when you talk about fan bases, they act totally different. That's why we call them fans. Remember, fans are short for fanatics, and that's the framework we think in. So we do want to make sure we acknowledge in coaches what they do in the work. We understand that. As Charles was accosted earlier about that, we wanted to share that this is about fan base, not about attacking coaches. You're good folks, and we know the work you put in there. We take it for that serious. Personal privilege. Before we take this next break, I want to talk about this, which is the Actively Black HBCU series, Prairie View. I saw a lot of folks with this shirts on yesterday. Shout out to Actively Black, how people are representing and seeing their reports on it, doing great work and quality merchandise. Good price in terms of what you do, but you're getting quality. I thought I would represent a little bit, particularly after victory. With all the other chaos. It'd be interesting, as we'll find out in the next segment, who was number one. Does North Carolina Central fall? If they do, how far? Does Jackson State fall from number one? We'll see how far. These gentlemen vote, others votes. We'll do that collectively and see what it looks like as we return in the next segment. Then our final segment, we'll talk about key matchups, and we'll introduce Kyle Mosley as he looks at his analytics and give you some thoughts as they break down these matchups, where they are in terms of his analytics of who are projected to get things done. We'll be right back after the second break. On the other side, we'll give you the major divisions, top 7. You don't want to miss it. There are some changes. We'll see exactly what that means for everybody. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this next break.
ESPN Events presents Red Lobster Band of the Year, a title reserved for elite HBCU marching bands. A season-long competition that culminates in Atlanta on Friday, December 12th. Drum majors, percussion, drill, auxiliaries, musicality. All aspects will be examined by the toughest judges in the world of college bands. 4 will qualify for the big stage, where national champions will be crowned. Follow us on social media for rankings updates throughout the season. And join us in Atlanta on December 12th. For event and ticket information, visit bandoftheyear.com.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. Whether you're a student or a lifelong supporter, our gear lets you wear your HBCU story with confidence and style. Because when you wear HBCU Image, you're not just wearing clothes. You're wearing culture. You're wearing pride. You're wearing purpose. HBCU Image, a Kenny T's company.
Compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a lot, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Let's put up our rankings as we go through the list. This is week 9. Going into the top 7, we'll see from those, if anybody dropped out this week. Let's just go right into it. Who dropped out in week 7? Everybody was able to stay in the top 7. We'll see what that means in terms of your ranking. Let's look at those creeping up on the outside looking in. All of these teams are back in the mix. Now, we do have one new entry, as we talked about moving away from the ledge. They're controlling some destinations, sliding over. Bethune-Cookman Wildcats are 4-4, 3-1, 149 points. Grambling is moved up in terms of the votes after their big victory. Grambling State Tigers sit at 5-3. More importantly, 2-2 in the divisional race. And FAMU has squarely got off the leads, at least in terms of now they're in the top 10 essentially. Last one receiving votes 3-4, 2-1. What's intriguing to me, obviously, remember that game against Valley was going to be played in Valley. Will be played in Valley at the end of the year. Charles will be on that call. I might sneak in the Valley, see if I can give Charles a little company, so he won't be getting in any trouble in Mississippi. So with that being said, if FAMU played that game, intriguing. They were a little kind of thinking about themselves, maybe on the ledge a little bit. But the way Valley playing now, you're thinking that really you're looking at this, they could be 4-4, 3-1. But that game will have to be played, so I wanted you to kind of be in the mix and think about that in terms of record. But with that being said, let's move into the top 7. Central falls from number 2 all the way to number 7. North Carolina Eagles are 5-3, 0-1, 150 points. They were previously ranked, as I said, number 2. Brings us to number 6. Number 6 this week is Texas Southern Tigers. They remain right there, did not play. They're 4-3, 3-1, 163 points. Previous ranked 6. Moving us to number 5 as we come up. And I see a lot of folks intrigued. Delaware State Hornets with the big upset move up 2 slots. They were previously 7th. They move up all the way to 5. They're at 5-3. Want to know more importantly in the MEAC race after their huge upset of previous ranked 2, that's dropped all the way to 7. But Delaware State Hornets at number 5. Bringing us to number 4. South Carolina State Bulldogs. They slide up a spot after a beatdown there, 5-3. 1-0, 1 first place vote. They gained the first place vote. So I would imagine that North Carolina Central that had a lot of those votes, or maybe it came from Jackson, but somebody thinks that South Carolina State, the Bulldogs, should pick up where they did late last season to be number 1. We'll see what that means. 185 points, but they do move up a spot previously last week where they're sitting at 5. Meaning, this is where it gets a little interesting. Top 3. I see Charles Bishop studying his craft. He's very intense to see where are we and what is going on about the rankings. I appreciate you, Charles, because you take it so seriously. Andy Drew, he don't even know what upset is, so we'll come back to him. You know he gonna say something that brings it off the ledge, even though it's gonna be some serious talk in considering, as you see, I'm elongating this a little bit. Number 3. Drum roll, number 3 is the Jackson State Tigers that sit at 5-2, 3-1, 2 first place votes. They do fall 2 spots to number 1. Some folks probably thought they should stay at number 1. At best, maybe some said number 2. But in the rankings this week, they have 2 first place votes. Some folks think they should still be number 1. You might want to consider. But in this poll, they fall to number 3. Bringing us to number 2, which you know who's going to be number 1. Number 2 is Prairie View A&M Panthers, 6-2, 4-0, 215. One of the best defenses out there, ranked number 1 in several FCS categories, certainly in the conference. Previous ranked 4, they move up 2 slots because of the upset, meaning the number 1 team is Alabama State. They did lose to Jackson State, but they got a beat down over Alabama A&M. They rebounded. They had number 1, 5-2, 3-1. 5 first place votes, 219. Previous ranked 3, they jumped up all the way to number 1 because number 1 and number 2 lost from last weekend, which means this week your number 1 team, after 10 straight weeks going back to week 10 last year, Jackson State, 14 weeks, number 1, they fall from the spot. The new number 1 is Alabama State Hornets. Let the arguments begin. In week 9, the next week's matchup, because I don't think it's going to stay for somebody, we got number 1 versus number 2. Number 1 goes on the road to Prairie View, setting up for a significant matchup. Everybody says that clearly the top 2 teams are in the East, Jackson State and Alabama State. Prairie View says, I got something to say about that. We shall see as they get a chance to host not just the top 17. Now they host the number 1 ranked Alabama State Hornets. in Dr. Cavil's week number 9 poll rankings. Let's take it away. I'm going to go with you, Charles, first because I love the way you study this, and I know you got something significant to say. Let me go to you, Charles. What are your thoughts on the top 7? Did I get it right or get it wrong?
Well, I'll say the first shocker for me was the precipitous drop from North Carolina Central. That caught my eye immediately. Week to week, I don't know if I can argue per se with the top 3. Prairie View, as you mentioned, has one of the best defenses in the nation. Alabama State, based week to week, one of the top offenses in the nation, and they did go BTA yesterday on Alabama A&M.
What is BTA? What is BTA?
You trying to get your car revoked? Your license revoked, so you can't be on there.
That did happen. You know what? I'm actually good with Jackson State being right where they are, right there. That's fair.
This is essentially a week-to-week poll.
Yeah.
You keep playing, you keep winning, you get your upsets, things will change. But this week, based on just how things happen in the fall, number 1,
Absolutely.
number 2, being upset. Everybody else won except for Texas Southern didn't play. It also talks about how far Central failed because of the other teams winning. Do you punish them for winning while you lost? A game at home for homecoming that you expected to win. There should be some outcomes, reality for that loss. Great combo, Charles, and breaking it down. Let me go to you, AD Drew. Then we'll come to Charles. Mike, you need to close up the segment. But AD Drew, what do you think about the top 7?
You know, I can see some of these things, but this was probably one of the most difficult votes I had as far as where to put these teams. About 10 o'clock last night, I was going through, looking at data from the games I didn't happen to get a chance to watch, or some of them I was able to watch while I was in the press box, bits and pieces of them. Let's start at the top with 1 and 2. You know, the biggest debate was who to put number 1 with the Jackson State loss. Prairie View, Alabama State. All right. Prairie View, they play Little Sisters of the Poor. Alabama State, you know, they took Alabama A&M behind the woodshed. But I personally voted Prairie View number 1. I'll put that on record. The reason I put Prairie View number 1 was because Prairie View's in first place in their division.
They are.
Alabama State is not in first place in their division. That was the tiebreaker for me. That is the reason why I had to put Prairie View number 1. Then it came down, do I put Jackson State 2 or Alabama State number 2? Because Jackson State does have the head-to-head, but in a week-to-week poll,
that's
Alabama
what I'm going
State
through.
Won,
right.
Jackson State lost. So I had to put Alabama State 2 just based on the fact they won, Jackson State lost. The Jackson State was number 3. Now, number 4, Delaware State, South Carolina State, North Carolina Central. Who do I put at number 4? Hell, Delaware State, who was 7, beat the then number 2 team.
True.
Top 7 matchup.
True.
That's my number 4 right there. You got to win in the top 7 matchup. Now, who do I put number 5? Well, North Carolina Central.
That's what I was thinking.
In a top 7 matchup.
Yeah.
There's my number 5. Texas Southern, you were idle. No one else did anything, in my opinion, to knock you off of the position you were in last week, which was number 6. I leave you alone, which leaves South Carolina State by default at number 7. That's how I approach it. Those are the votes that I
Great breakdown and an explanation of how you set up your votes. I really appreciate you taking the time to do that so folks can see how you struggle and how certain data points mean something to you when you're ranking. And everybody has that rhythm that they go in when they send in their votes. So that's part of the magic of week-to-week rankings where folks literally put in their votes. They do go back and look at things, and they weigh them based on how they weigh them so everybody understands what it looks like in poll rankings. So great job, AD Group. We're going to save it to Big Mike. Mike, what do you think, top 7?
No issues at all with the first 3. I went back and forth, but no issues. If you go week to week, like Dr. Cavil says, you go week to week, no issues with the top 3. My issue is with Delaware State, South Carolina State, Texas Southern, North Carolina Central. So basically that 4 to 7. And I agree with you. If you look up any stat, it now has Delaware State as in top of the MEAC. They're in first place. So from my perspective, if you're at the first place of your division and you beat the then number 2 team, to me, it also I look at statistics. Delaware State should be above South Carolina State. And I thought that fall for North Carolina Central, yes, it was far, but I don't know if Texas Southern has done enough to be in that number 6 spot. I would have them at number 7 and North Carolina Central up at number 6. That's enough of a degree of a fall for me.
Great stuff. Great breakdown. I love your explanation, and I can't argue with it. All of you all did a really good job of explaining where you felt the poll got it right, but also where you see challenges, and that's what we want to do in this segment as we break down the 7. Get some of the voters that vote in the poll rankings to say where they voted, why they voted, how much they agree with the rankings, and it sets stuff up for next week when you start talking about key matchups, which we will do after this last break. We'll come back on the other side and talk about these matchups. Also, this is a chance to provide a reminder. We will have a different number 1 team, you would imagine, in the mid-major on Tuesday. So stick with us for those mid-major programs. I saw a shout out to AD Drew in terms of giving some love to the mid-majors, particularly to the Albany State Golden Rams and Benedict and what took place. Go ahead, AD Drew.
And I was going to say, some of those same thought processes, those same decisions that I had to make, I also had to make with my Division II poll because some very similar scenarios happened on the Division II level also. So this was a really tough weekend to send in both these polls, Dr. Cavil, for me personally.
Yeah, I expect that as we get deeper in the season, particularly when you get upsets, it gets a little more challenging in how you do your poll. That's why we call them upsets. We'll be right back after this last break to come back on the other side and talk about some key matchups as we do this. Our team AD Drew about Professor. We'll be back. We got some big ones. Things get interesting. I think we'll be right back after this last break and talk about those matchups. Number 1 versus number 2. It's on the book.
Greetings, Santos. My name is Roland Austin, and I'm one of the directors at the 1876 Athletic Foundation. The 1876 Athletic Foundation was formed to promote the success of all 343 student athletes. Our overall goal is to fund scholarships for all of our student athletes. We ask that you help us in achieving this goal by donating to the 1876 Athletic Foundation via the QR code below or 1876.foundation. Your generous donation will help us continue to assist the needs of all of our Panther athletes. Thanks, and go Panthers.
ESPN Events presents Red Lobster Band of the Year, a title reserved for elite HBCU marching bands. A season-long competition that culminates in Atlanta on Friday, December 12th. Drum majors, percussion, drill, auxiliaries, musicality. All aspects will be examined by the toughest judges in the world of college bands. 4 will qualify for the big stage, where national champions will be crowned. Follow us on social media for rankings updates throughout the season. And join us in Atlanta on December 12th. For event and ticket information, visit bandoftheyear.com.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. Whether you're a student or a lifelong supporter, our gear lets you wear your HBCU story with confidence and style. Because when you wear HBCU Image, you're not just wearing clothes. You're wearing culture. You're wearing pride. You're wearing purpose. HBCU Image, a Kenny T's company.
compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
It's Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab as we get into our last segment. Let's get into some of these matchups. So we're going to start with, at least in terms of rankings, we're going to talk with the biggest one on the books in terms of what that looks like, which is none other than that number matchup. And we will talk about Kyle Mosley to break down his thoughts in terms of his ranking machine. Shout out to Kyle Mosley of what he's putting together. The data analytics, I always want to put that in there. We got our own data doctor, Big Mike, in terms of when he talks about those data points. We're going to bring more analytics into the show to show you in terms of how serious we like to go in depth. We look at our matchups. We're not just fan folks, but there's nothing wrong with that. But in terms of what we want to deliver to you is really going inside the number, key matchups, things to work at, injuries, those things of why we say that you need to consider a matchup, why there may be an upset, or why you think a team is going to get it done. So that's something I want you to consider what that looks like. So with that being said, the big game next week is Alabama State. I'm trying to make sure our friend, in terms of John Grant, who was considered coming to this matchup before it was, now he has no choice. He needs to get on the plane, spend a little bit of ESPN money, come on down to Prairie View.
Come on, Big
take
John.
care of him. We know it's the week after.
Come on, Big John. Where you at?
And if the AD didn't have to do work, we try to recruit him to come down there. But we promise you, John Grant, you come to Prairie View, we'll take care of you. We'll put you in the suite, get you a chance to talk with the AD. We even see if we can make sure you talk to President of the Grand, President of Prairie View A&M University. So, you know, I have just a little bit of say down on the Prairie View door. So I'll use it to make sure that you're treated right, Mr. John Grant. If you choose to fly into Houston, we have two major airports. You straight shot right down to 90. We'll get you a parking place, whatever, media credentials. We'll see what's necessary. Put you in the National Alumni Suite of Prairie View. I happen to know the president, Mr. Roosevelt Huggins, is doing a great job. In fact, he did something last week in terms of Southern's homecoming, able to get Prairie View A&M folks, 50, 60, 100 folks in the middle, I'm seeing 50-yard lines for Southern's homecoming. We had a show last week. Shout out to those folks that did the show, the Southern and all four state fans over there as they do it. They were saying they've never seen anything like that besides what they're seeing on the football field. But they were also talking about Prairie View taking up a section in their thing. So just giving you an idea that there is some things that Prairie View A&M gets right. Number one, Alabama State Hornets that are doing a lot of things right. They come 5-2, 3-1 at number 2 Prairie View A&M 6-4-0. You got the coach talking about getting in line. You got the AD talking about buying some tickets, get your butt back to Prairie View in the seat. So you can't say that I didn't try to tell them. I'll continue to teach on this show today 1 versus 2 in terms of this matchup. It's the big one, so I'm going to give everybody a chance to talk about it. Starting with you, AD Drew. What are your thoughts? 1 versus 2. Consider to the polls that was released today. Big time. Another game. Maybe not the game of the decade. It certainly is for Prairie View. Maybe even Alabama State. With that being said, AD Drew, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
All that stuff sounds good on the field, Doc. But me being in the media, here's my question. Who's going to win the press conference? That's why I want to put my money at. Who's going to win the press conference between these two? Because you literally got fire Tremaine Jackson and ice Eddie Robinson Jr. when it comes to the microphone. Both are effective. Both get the job done, but they have two different approaches. Who's going to win the press conferences throughout the week? That's the storyline that I want to see. Number 2.
Especially if I put out the number 1 versus number 2, any of them will take the bait.
Yeah. Besides that, important for determining home field advantage for the SWAC championship game. Prairie View wins this game, they've almost locked up home field advantage. Prairie View has the advantage of having 3 of the next 4 SWAC conference games at home. Got a point, Mike. Big advantage.
Data point. You took my data point. You took my data point.
A&M, Alabama State, with renewed hope because of the Jackson State loss, know they cannot afford to lose another game, because for Alabama State, it's SWAC championship or bust, because they have absolutely zero opportunity to make the FCS playoffs due to the Turkey Day Classic. So I am really intrigued about all those different variables going into this week, trying to see how it's going to play out. And by the way, potentially SWAC Player of the Year in Andrew Body against the number one defense, one of the top defenses in the SWAC. Storylines everywhere this week.
Yes, you social media people out there, get off of what happened last week. We'll give you another. You had it last night. It's time to move on. Maybe give you half a day today.
24-hour rule.
Sports Wrap. They'll do a review, but time to move forward. Let's set this match up. You got Andrew Body, number 1 offense, coming in on the road to face the number 2 defense. He had this shot before. At that time, he was number 2 facing the number 1. Now he's the king of the hill, along with his Hornets. It'll be fascinating, this matchup. Mike, what I love about what we're doing, we talk about Dr. Charles McCullen, the commissioner. He's talked about helping put this together. You got, obviously, as we talk about Mr. John Grant in terms of what he's doing. He says, look at matchup. Talk about players. Week to week, we got folks in mid-season firing coaches, whether you agree or not. All that is heightened because the importance of a SWAC championship game, the importance of the Celebration Bowl, the importance of winning those in terms of being able to go get that loot, as the young folks would say. They probably changed it up, but I'm using my own language to talk about young folks, but it is what it is. I can do that. I'm the dean of HBCU sports. What more do you want? We got fans now, after a raining tailgate, as they celebrating cigars, even young folks at the Alpha Pit, they talk about, as Charles said, what does this mean? Where do we stand? Do I cancel my tickets? They talking about we get the game. We got texts with folks going out there talking about, thank you, Jackson. Talking to their grandmother friends, frat brothers, sisters, sorority sisters, thank you. We control our destiny. We want the game infection. This is what HBCU sports culture is about. When you look at the ranking, talk about what's going on week to week, keep the fur high. We got SWAC TV, where we bring you the updates of what's going on. We got folks SWAC TV, where you can follow your games while you watch the other games on your phone. And I see the people, they talking about it. They walk around, they tailgate, looking at phones, looking at TVs, watching games on HBCU Go in their RVs while they are having food with friends, crowding their TVs, looking at outside the TV. You walking down, they got Jackson State and Grambling and Las Vegas on their TV. They not watching these other games. This is the culture. This is what we built. This is why it's important. This one's coming up. And you got another big one this week with 1 versus 2. Coming out of the SWAC. Charles, what you got to say?
I would say, boy, we've gone from learning about Johnny T, so now we're about to learn about 50-15 or quotes. Damn, boy. Man, how things change. Oh, my God.
Speak on it.
Man, woo.
Speak on it.
I'll tell you what. Number 1 offense, number 1 defense, and Tremaine Jackson's challenge last week to the Prairie View faithful. Hey, you got to turn up. You got to turn out this week. You have to turn out this week. This is big time football. This is big time football in your stadium. This is the weekend to show all your love for Prairie View and Panther football. This is what it's about. This is what Tremaine Jackson came to do at Prairie View in terms of making sure that culture understands the football game is what's important. The football game is what's important, and this is what you have this upcoming weekend. I'm looking forward to it.
Good stuff. Mike? Did you have your say?
Well, since AD took my data point, let me give you some other things. Storyline. What's Andrew Body's record against Prairie View? Think about it. Think about it. It's over $1 million. Has he beaten Prairie View? No. You got the number one rusher, the number one passer in the SWAC against the top offense coming back to Prairie View. You talking about another storyline? Jump on that, baby. We got 50-15. We got Avenue J. We got everything. Johnny T, meet 50-15. Meet Avenue 5. Meet all of that. But the other thing, the chart, I got a call from my auntie in Dallas. She's like, now, baby, I don't know X from O, but what this mean? Where I need to book my tickets in December. She don't know anything. Folks are asking questions. That's how important it is. You mentioned that Tremaine Jackson, AD Golf, also made the same plea to the Prairie View faithful. He said, this is football, folks. Let's put our mark on it. Let's make it important. This is big. The other thing is, we talk about number one offense, number two defense. And we talk about fire and ice, AD. I would argue that if you see Tremaine Jackson in a press conference, he is ice. He is cool. He's like, we're going to come to play with violence, and maybe the other coach, maybe a little bit of fire, but he's going to get this team ready. So all of that being said, the turkey legs will be flowing. The dirty rice will be dipping. And that Houston fruit punch that I'm going to serve you will be readily flowing. So let's get it ready. All the X's and O's aside, this football game is that important. John Grant, Dr. Cavil, I love you. I've known you 30 years. You told a lie. You said you have a little important. If I need to toss a name on the East Gate, I don't even say Dr. Cavil. I just say Doc. Doc. I'm telling you, I'm walking with the mayor. And everybody say, hey, Dr. Cavil. Oh, yeah, you the one with Dr. Cavil. So, yeah. So I'm going to say, Mr. John Grant, where are you at? Because you got the mayor sitting at the head of this show saying, we got you. You want to be in the alumni suite? We got you. You want to be in the best tailgating spot, in the best tailgating school? Sorry, CB. In the best tailgating school? We got you, Mr. Grant. So where you at? Book your ticket. Book your ticket. We'll Uber you. We'll Uber you. What approach you had? So let's go.
I like this. Charles had to sit back when you said best tailgate school. I know there's other things. He said, I love everything else, Mike. But slow you up.
Let Jackson State just handle business.
Let me give a shout out before we move on quickly, and we'll just highlight the rest of them up against the time. I also want to give a special shout out to Quotes that sponsored also the Coaches Show. Went down. We had a chance to go over there and do our show live on Thursday. Thank you, Charles, for coming out there. That hosts Tremaine Jackson's Coaches Show, which you need to tune in on Thursday. It's going to be a big one in terms of this matchup. He's going to tell you what he thinks. They also sponsored Roland in terms of what he did, giving a tailgate experience like no other, 10th anniversary for homecoming, where they were looking over, had a chance to look at the stadium, look at the concert row, treated everybody well. Shout out to Joe Clay, Alan Williams, Victor, and Samuel. Those guys that have been down with us day one, who started the tailgates along with Mike in terms of what that looks like. So many folks getting done. Edwin Drayden, so I wanted to give some of those to Trina, also in terms of the lady of the ship and what she's doing. George Johnson of the 1876 Athletics, putting things in place and proposals to get things done. Great job with the suite yesterday, Mike, in terms of what you were able to put together. Well done in terms of those folks. So I did want to give some kudos. The rest of the Prairie View crew out there that got it done from homecoming. And again, thank you, Charles, for making your way down here to call the game and make sure the experience is really great. 80 Drew, what you do all the time is really important. Let's go quickly a couple of these other matchups. We won't necessarily break them down. We'll save that for Thursday. But I wanted to show you another important one. It's a top 10 matchup. Jackson State Tigers, can they rebound? Where we are with the quarterback. 5-2, 3-1 at number 10, Florida A&M Rattlers, and 3-4, 2-1. extremely important. Jackson State has had their way with FAMU, but FAMU has a chance. Can they get off the mat, or will Jackson State rebound, Charles?
Yeah, I'll be looking for my invitation to the ONG Strike Zone. Thank you, Brian Fulford, in advance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love that. Great job. Great job. Let's move to the next matchup.
Hold up.
Go ahead.
Brian, since you issued that challenge to Prairie View about scoring 50 points, if the Rattlers don't score 20 points, I'm gonna be looking at y'all sideways.
Well, since everybody,
I look for my invitation as well.
Don't be surprised if SWAC TV is down at this game next Saturday to talk about this top 10 matchup with Jackson State Tigers at number 10, Florida A&M Rattlers. Good stuff in terms of this matchup. Top 10. It's important in terms of standing. Let's keep rolling to the next matchup as we go down the
elimination
ranking
game.
place.
It is an elimination game.
Yes, it is.
Elimination
Yes,
game.
it is.
Yeah.
Elimination game.
Yes.
Good
Yes,
point,
it is.
AD. South Carolina State, they got Morgan State. It's a dangerous team. You might not think about it, but they play you tough. They defeated South Carolina State Bulldogs before, struggling a little bit, but South Carolina State continues to see if they can make a statement. Obviously, they control their destiny. I will be at that North Carolina Central, and South Carolina State matchup on Friday. I'm looking forward to that to see if it still means something to Spanish. But I booked my ticket. I'll catch John Grant there for that one as well. Move to the next matchup. My buddy, tell him don't invite you, right? Norfolk State at number 5, Delaware State. This is the game that's on Thursday. It's in Philadelphia. Can Delaware State continue to get it done? You got 2 ex-Philadelphia NFL players coaching this matchup, and you got one of them that's ranked, that's playing some good football. Does Hornets move to 2-0, get a stranglehold, setting up for that matchup with South Carolina State down the stretch. We'll see what it means. Next matchup. Alcorn State ranked 6-1-3, feeling good. They got a win. It was Valley, but they got the win. They traveled to Texas Southern. Texas Southern says, don't forget about us. We're 1 game behind Prairie View. We're looking at that number 1 team coming in there. Make a mistake if you want to. Texas Southern says we're going to be right back in the mix. They said it's 4-3, 3-1. Interesting to see what goes on there. The last one is number 7, North Carolina Central. Can they rebound? 5-3-1. They gotta have it. Howard Bison are 4-4, 1-0. They seem to turn it on. Conference play to Bison. And 1-0 overtime big win. They have taken to the past Central before. This time Central goes on the road to Howard. These are 2 teams that put 50 spots back-to-back years on each other, so you know how they feel about each other. This is a fascinating matchup. It gets into the elimination game for the Eagles. Howard has to find a way to get it done. Interesting when you talk about a top 7 matchup here. Next one. Just to give you a couple of key matchups outside of that, we get into those rankings in terms of what that looks like in terms of those matchups. Go ahead, Drew, and get to the next matchup as we do start to look at some of the rankings there. What you got to consider, which is Mississippi Valley State. Go back to Mississippi Valley, if you would, in terms of that Bethune-Cookman number 8. Wiley, when you think about it, you got these teams going on with Valley. They're struggling. Bethune-Cookman is feeling better and better about themselves, setting up for a key matchup against Jackson State as they control their own destiny. Obviously, in terms of setting up what may be for the Florida Classic, the team will be there live in terms of doing the SWAC TV there for that game. So I'm fascinated in terms of what that looks like in that matchup. Let me give you a couple of indications. While we're doing that, when you talk about that FAMU Jackson State game, it's interesting. We tell you about the industry, but when you look at the projections, we'll tell you a little bit more about Kyle Mosley. We may push that to Thursday because of the time. But we have Alabama A&M Bulldogs 4-4, 1-3. Number 9, Grambling State Tigers 5-3, 2-2. Trying to stay in the race. Interesting to see what goes up in this matchup. Grambling State has gotten hot after a big victory, taking down the number 1 team. So you got to see what the Tigers going to do. Next matchup, if you would. Southern Jaguars 1-7, 0-4 at Arkansas Pine Bluff 2-5, 3. Both of these teams are essentially eliminated in terms of the race there, what they look in particular Western Division. But there's some pride there. Golden Lions would feel really good if they can get Southern Jaguars, even if they're down. And then, you know, Southern has pride about themselves. They don't want to go 0-4 in the conference. They made a change. You got Fred McNair. He had a lead in the game against FAMU, but could not succumb to it. So those are your matchups in terms of what that looks like. As I said, we have some analytics breakdowns. We'll break that down for you on Thursday to get you prepared of those matchups, what it looks like because of the elimination. Rozier says, we don't want none of your bad juju and brag. I get you. Hey, they didn't woke up. Don't play that with us. Good job what they do with the O&G strike zone. Seriously, good job by Brian. Keep up the great work, Rozier. Love you like a brother. Appreciate you taking care of me when I was down there. Good host in terms of what that looks like. With that, we'll go down. One final thought from everybody before we close the show today, starting with you, AD Drew. What are your final thoughts?
I'm gonna flip back to the Division II level for a moment. Thank God I am not one of the nerds in the SIAC offices in Atlanta who's going to have to figure out the tie break between Kentucky State and Benedict should it play out when those two teams remain tied at the end of the season with Albany State in the pole position right now. But Albany State, keep in mind, you still got Fort Valley on your schedule. So we really could have the nerves having to pull out the slide rules if we get a three-way tie with all those teams at one loss in the SIAC. Flip it over quickly to the CIAA. Hey, we got a three-team race. The matchup you need to keep a lookout for, Fayetteville Johnson C. But we'll talk about that on Tuesday.
Good stuff. Let me go to you, Charles. I'm glad you said that, AD Drew. As Tuesday we'll get into it, the key matchup, the CIAA this week, though. Fayetteville State and Johnson C. Smith is one to keep your eyes on. If we talk major division, mid-major, it's going down. We had it in the SIAC this past weekend. We shifted to CIAA in terms of mid-major love. That has all types of implication on it for Fayetteville State and Johnson C. Smith. Can Johnson C. Smith get it right this year? They're in the mix. They want a little payback for a championship game against Virginia Union. To get there, they have to get this victory. So that's a fascinating matchup on the mid-major level. Charles, what are your thoughts in terms of next weekend where things get back interesting again?
I mean, first week of November, so it's championship football down the stretch. And that's what makes this time of the season so much fun. You talk about that number 1 versus number 2 matchup, Jackson State, FAMU, but playoff football in the MEAC, and all the implications over there in the SIAC and CIAA. This is so much fun during this time of the year. I can't wait to get to next week. Looking forward to it. And as I mentioned earlier, Kevin, Brian, I'm just a StreamYard link away.
Yep. I want to implode the show.
AD Drew? I don't know. OG strike zone. To call your brothers down to AD.
Invite me. Invite me. Where you at? I want to implode that show.
The BCSM network. Don't be ugly. Big Mike.
I want to do that ridiculous thing that you do with your wrist. Whatever. So anyway, what CB said, October's getting real. If you're not a football fan, I don't know what. And just imagine the race, the complexity of how it gets. If Alabama State wins, then that makes things somewhat complex. If Prairie View wins, that still makes things complex. If we start the season thinking that a team from the West could potentially host the championship, we didn't start thinking that. Now we're thinking that. So it's imagine they play the game for a reason. Drew, I know you're about to say something. The other thing I will say is that let's not forget TSU. Alabama State has to play Prairie View, but no matter the outcome, they still also have to play TSU, who's sitting in the wings and playing much better. So here's another team from the West. Did we think of this at the beginning of 2025? football season? No.
The
That's
West
gone.
has something to say.
That's my point. The West has something to say. That gauntlet is getting real.
Especially when you think it was the third ranked team out of the West that defeated the number one ranked team in the East. Are we finally getting the shift? Can the West finally get some love in terms of being able to be back in the football business? We shall see.
Let me put it from an organizational. Are we at the precipice of an organizational threshold shift in the paradigm of future games? There you go, AD. That's my data point.
Can I throw one other thing out there quickly? Should Alabama State defeat Prairie View, do we realize that for the first time since expansion, we will not have an undefeated regular season champion in the SWAC?
Right.
Yep. Good point. Good point. With that being said, we'll call it a close. Mr. John Grant, look forward to seeing you. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share your podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Watts and Charles Bishop. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavil Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watts and Charles Bishop. I do want to make sure that we shout out the folks at Prairie View that allowed us to get up to the suites to set up for the SWAC TV to give you that Thurston getting it done in terms of so many ways. Appreciate her, Anitra, in terms of what she was able to do. Obviously, the AD, John Grant, great job in terms of what that looks like. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time, and on Sundays at 9, giving you a breakdown for the week of how you can look at HBCU sports. Follow me, Dr. Yada Bill, at DRKENYATTACAVIL on Threads, Facebook, and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Facebook. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube. Dream big, continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Mike?
Lecture. Oh.
AD?
Dismissed.
Dismissed. I don't know who that was.
That's Raymond.
That's Raymond.
Tailgaters, 3P tailgaters.